Aqara have just released their new indoor camera, the E1, and it's a huge upgrade from previous options with a super solid feature set that offers perhaps the most compatibility and flexibility of any indoor camera that I've tested so far. Perhaps the biggest new addition is the adoption of Wi-Fi 6, which is great to see. This means we have a much more stable and much quicker connection than with many current Wi-Fi cameras, which use older protocols of connectivity. The addition of Wi-Fi 6 is a super necessary transition that we'll see across most Wi-Fi enabled cameras eventually, but it just so happens that Aqara have been among the first to actually implement this, and what can I say, it makes a hell of a lot of difference in terms of its connecting times. Whereas in the past, you might have had to wait maybe a second or so for it to load, the E1 using Wi-Fi 6 halves that time or better, which is such a welcome change. This delay is even less using HomeKit. Almost as soon as I've opened up the Home app on my iPhone, it shows a live preview, which is incredible. And because it works with HomeKit, I can use the HomeKit secure footage storage, which gives me 10 days of cloud storage for my footage, included with my iCloud plan. Finally, a brand that doesn't force their own subscription services on you and lets you use features that I'm already paying for with iCloud. Aqara deserve an award just for this. I've been saying for ages that this needs to happen with all camera providers, but there's few and far between that have actually implemented this support, and I'm so happy that Aqara have gone ahead and done this. Could other brands now follow Aqara's example? Well, let's hope so, but for now, Aqara absolutely deserves some recognition here for this implementation. But this is not the only thing that they should be applauded for with this camera, because they've actually offered a ton of other footage storage solutions. In fact, they probably have the most storage options that I've ever seen on a camera before. Alongside the ability to use HomeKit secure footage, they also offer their own cloud subscription, which is fine. They offer the ability to record to an internal SD card, and it even offers the ability to store on a supported NAS if you have one. I genuinely don't think I've come across a camera which has this much flexibility before, and it's a real standout feature of this device, and perhaps one of the reasons that I continue to love Aqara and everything they're doing for the smart home community right now. It's just so good. They haven't tried to shoehorn you directly into a system that you don't want. So a round of applause here. Now let's talk about the quality, because a camera is obviously only as good as what it's able to record.
As you can see, the quality is not bad at all. It does show my bald spot quite well.
It films in 2K resolution, so it's not the highest quality that you'll get, but given that you'll be using it indoors, I think that's more than enough resolution to cover the room that it's in. Now the exposure seems good as well, with very little noise even in darker environments, and it's also got black and white night vision, which again works rather well. So there's nothing really to report on in terms of actual quality. It performs what it does and what it says on the tin. But in respect to its core functionality, it's a really straightforward piece of kit to use. Loading up the app, you can have it as a card on the dashboard. Clicking it will display the preview. Loading that up into full screen, you can manually control the tilt and pan through either the control pad or by swiping on the screen. Now with the pan and tilt, you've got a full 360-degree rotation of it, which is pretty good. And up and down is alright. I would say it's got a better up viewing angle than it does down. At the lowest down pointing angle that this can do, when it's on a high shelf, it does miss out quite a lot of what's below it. But Aqara do have a solution to this, and they provided it in the box, and it's this, a little mounting bracket that has sort of a tripod screw type thing on the bottom, I guess, and 2 screw holes. So you can screw this to your wall, mount this on like this, click it in, and then it would hang like that on your wall. So that will give you full verticality with what you can look at and give you a complete angle of what's below you as well. So depending on where you're mounting it, Aqara have kind of given you every solution there, really. So that is a nice little addition. And you've also got the ability to set predefined positions, which are essentially quick ways to check certain areas within the room that you might want to check regularly. And then in the advanced section, you have the option to turn on human tracking. This will recognize humans throughout your room, which is a super handy feature in terms of surveillance, because it means that you can follow the activity without having to manually try and pan the camera within the app. And this tracking is pretty quick too.
Yep, Chuck, look at this. Look at that. There is no getting away from this.
Now, all of this is well and good, but perhaps what supercharges the entire thing is the ability to use it within the Aqara ecosystem, but also the ability to use Aqara scenes, which exposes particular presets within the internal Aqara system to smart home systems like Amazon. Now, what this means is that you could set up a scene within the Aqara app that might have the camera in a certain position. And then, when this scene pops up in the Amazon app, you could then say that every time the door to the house opens, or Amazon notices someone opening the door, to trigger that Aqara scene, so that it would automatically pan the camera to the door of a room every time someone opens the door to the house. Even if the camera is pointed in a completely different angle, it would just automatically go because of that Aqara scene. Now, of course, you could set that automation to work internally within the Aqara system if you're using, let's say, the door and window sensor from Aqara. But this ability to have it as a scene means that you can expose this automation to other sensors from other manufacturers, which is really awesome of Aqara to openly let you do this. Now, although I love some of the new additions and features, there's one thing that I'm a little bit upset that it doesn't have, and that's the facial recognition that I loved from the G3 Hub. Now, I've been using the G3 Hub, which is essentially the Aqara Hub and camera built into one for the past few years. And this has built-in facial recognition, which opens up the possibility of building those routine scenes and automations based on not just an action, but on who is doing the action or who is in front of it. Now, I would have loved for them to have built this ability into the E1, but unfortunately they haven't. And that's probably down to a lack of onboard computing ability to do this. And therefore, I'm guessing that we'll never ever see that functionality on this camera, so don't expect it to be in a software update. I mean, I might be wrong, but only time will tell on this one. But there is a flip side to this, however. Because the camera doesn't actually need an Aqara hub to run, it can just pair up directly with your Wi-Fi. So although it isn't a G3 hub, it also doesn't require one either. So at least there's some silver lining here. You can buy this and use it on its own. But another consideration, although this is probably entirely superficial, is that there's a lack of 3-pin plug included in the package. There's only a USB-A to USB-C cable, which means that you're going to need to supply your own plug or have an outlet with USB sockets. Now, this is not so much of an issue because people usually have many 3-pin plugs lying around. And more houses are starting to have things like outlets with USB built into it. But for those that don't, make sure you order a 3-pin USB plug while you're at it. That's if you're in Britain. Everywhere else will need to buy one of those janky connectors that your country uses, because we all know that British 3-pin plugs are the best. Go Britain. Now, the last thing, which is, I guess, also another superficial point, is the naming. They've called this the Aqara Camera E1, which is odd, because they've also called the radiator valves, curtain openers, shade openers, and a hub the E1 too. So if you Google and search for the Aqara E1, there's going to be a 1 in 5 chance that you'll be served the correct product you're looking for. It would make sense, maybe, if Aqara organised these products into series. So, for example, the E1 series. But this isn't the organisation currently on the website. And they've released a bunch of products recently with very different naming structures, such as the Presence Sensor FP2 or the LED Strip T1. Am I missing something here? Anyway, that obviously doesn't affect the product in any way. It's still a fantastic little device, and in terms of cost, its RRP is just $59.99. Now, I think that's an entirely reasonable price. It might be a little bit more expensive than some, but it's certainly not the most expensive. But what it does have is one of the most rich feature sets that I've come across for an indoor camera. If anything, this is a mid-range price for top-tier functionality. And this isn't counting any of the discounts that might be running, so it'd be worth you guys checking the link in the description to find out what its current price is at. Because if this has any discount at all, it would absolutely be worth snapping up. And what I've loved the most about this camera is that it offers choice and flexibility, which many others don't have. Sure, from a design perspective, it doesn't really offer anything new, but with the faster connection of Wi-Fi 6, the super wide compatibility, and the massive amounts of flexibility in how you store the footage it takes, makes this camera a really strong choice and among the best pieces of kit to build into your smart home system, especially if you're like me and use a huge number of different stuff from different brands. What do you think? Do you think the Aqara E1 is a good addition to the lineup? Do you think that they made the right choice by opening up the compatibility? Let us all know in the comments below, and I'll be replying to everyone in the next few hours. So make sure you come and say hi down there. And if you enjoyed today's episode and want to see more on Aqara and more STU'S reviews, go and take a look at my review on the Aqara FP2, which I think is one of the most revolutionary smart home sensors that has ever been made, and something that will eventually change how we use our smart homes. Other than that, guys, don't forget to hit that thumbs up and that subscribe button, and I'll see you guys back for another episode of STU'S Reviews soon.